Well, Kathy was a normal child. She was a quiet girl. She was a mama's girl, always. Was always a foot behind me. And she was a normal child. When she became 13, she got a little testy. And we had a little discussion. I was a hands-on mom, and I was a strict mother. And she made a decision when she was 14 that she wanted to run the nursing home. And it was our family business, and she made that decision. And then she stayed very focused from that point on with her grades and doing what she needed to do to fulfill her goal. She worked at the nursing home in the yard as a nurse's aide in the kitchen. She worked everywhere. When she was 16, I was cooking, and we had a very testy lady, and Kathy was getting everybody around the table for lunch, and she had an invisible dog. And she didn't want to come to eat at the table because she had her invisible dog. So she came to me and asked me what to do. And I said, well, you go tell Ellie that she can come to the table this time and bring her dog. So she went in and told her that. And the lady got very mad at Kathy, and she said, you know that I do not have a dog. And she picked up her cane and she hit her over top of the head, because Kathy said, you can bring your dog to the table. And then later on that year, we were going to the Green Tree in Sandusky for a family outing, and Kathy was going to check in a new resident and then drive down there and meet us there. And I got paged at the hotel, so I knew that wasn't good. And she said, Mom, she said, Harry has got $10,000 in cash in his left pocket and a loaded gun in his right pocket. What do I do? I said, take them both away from him and put him in the safe. And so she got a real education on the different aspects of the elderly. And so then she went off to Bowling Green. She had raised Himalayan kittens to help pay for her first year of college, and that was a real benefit. She said, can we have kittens? I said, under two circumstances. One, all the kitties have to be sold, and all the money has to go in the bank. And that was our agreement, and she did that. She was always very good at listening to me. And so when she was 22, I hired her at the nursing home. And she was young. That is very young to become an administrator of our small 31-bed nursing home in Green Springs, Ohio, a population of 600 people. And she said to me, Mom, how do I run this nursing home? And I said to her, Kathy, I don't have any idea. But let's use the 10 Commandments as our guide and make sure that every decision you make is right with God, right with the state of Ohio, and we don't lose money. And when you have a decision to make and your stomach is turning upside down, the answer to that is no. And so that's how we started out, my ambitious daughter. And it has been very interesting. Then in 1986, she came to me and she said, I want to expand. I want to open up a home for profound retarded. That's what they were called at that time. And my husband had died the year before, and I was not interested in expanding. But she bugged me, as she always did, never would take no for an answer. She says, all you have to do is give me $100,000 and I will pay it back in 6 months. And she came to me with her folder, like she always does, with all the costs and the projections and everything all listed. And I said, okay, I'll give you $100,000. So we went to the bank and I gave her $100,000, not knowing that that was the beginning of our expansion. And it took her 9 months to pay the money back, but it worked out very well. It has been a very successful home, and that is the first time that I mortgaged my home for my daughter. It has not been the last. I gave up trying to count the times, but God is good. And so we started out. Then at the end of the 80s, our little nursing home did not meet code, and I had to make a decision on whether I was going to continue in that business or I was going to tear it down or do something different. So I took my Bible and I went to the woods to make the decision. And it seemed to me that God was showing me that we should go ahead and rebuild the nursing home. And I was very, very scared. I was a widow at the time. And I thought, you know, I don't have a husband. But if I did have a husband, he'd either say yes or no. So I decided that we should try to do this. But I told God, I said, you know, I'm not smart enough to know what to do. So you're going to have to drop all the people in my lap so I know. And that's exactly what happened. People just showed up and everybody helped. And then she came to me with her little brochure and her little folder with all the costs of how much it's going to cost to build this nursing home. And I almost had a stroke. All this money. And she come to me and she patted me on the back and she said, Mom, this is what we do. This is just zeros. I said, I know it's zeros, Kathy, but I have to sign the note. But I did, and we were off and running. And once we built the nursing home, we tore down the original nursing home and then built an assisted living at the same footprint of the existing Elmwood that was built, you know, in 1919. And that was the beginning, as it turns out, of us building facilities. And we both loved it. We just loved figuring it all out, and it was so exciting to us. And so that worked out really well. And then in the 90s, I said to her, you know, you've been running my business all these years. You need to get a business of your own for your family. And she had the opportunity to buy the Shawn in Tiffin and the one in Fremont at a very good price. And she didn't have the money, but she was able to secure 100% financing. And the day before she signed the note for all those millions of dollars, she found out that her husband was dying of Lou Gehrig's, and he had the fast kind. So she brought her little folder over with all the costs, and she asked me what to do. And I said, Kathy, I can't tell you what to do because you're going to lose everything that you've worked for 25 years if you can't turn those around. And you have to make the decision. And I said, honey, it's just zeros. And she goes, yeah, but Mom, I have to sign this time. I said, it makes a difference who signs the note. So she went ahead and signed the note. And then I helped her take care of her husband until he died. And since then, she's built a couple of more assisted livings in a nursing home, and it's been quite a ride.
I guess so. That's a pretty good story. Now, where are we minute-wise?
24
Left?
minutes left.
Okay.
You got your Kleenex, just dab underneath your nose.
Thank you.
And maybe underneath the eyes right here too. There you go.
Okay.
So you think back over Kathy's career, and you know it all. You were there at the beginning. What do you see as her most impressive accomplishments when you look back? Looking big picture, not into the fine points, but what's been the best part of her story?
I taught my daughters, all three of them, to be kind to people because I didn't want them complaining every day about somebody doing this to you and somebody doing it. So I brought my daughters up that they had to tell me 3 things that they did a kindness every day for someone or 3 people. And I consider that one of the greatest things because when people meet my children, they say, your children are so kind and compassionate. And there's not enough kindness, really. But she's very, very dedicated, and she's very motivated, and she's got boundless energy, and she always does her homework. She never procrastinates. She runs whatever it is that she needs to do. She does it in a timely manner, and we take very good care of our staff. We have over 900 people working for us now, and so they appreciate her kindness and her willingness to help them solve whatever problem it is that they have.
Yeah, we saw that when we walked around with her, and it was pretty obvious that her staff have a lot of respect.
Yes, they do.
When you think of Kathy, what words come to mind to describe her?
She's very, very dedicated. She's very dedicated. She was dedicated to her family, and she's so dedicated to Elmwood and her mother. And she just really looks at the big picture as far as family and the business, and she does whatever needs to be done. You know, she just really gets in there and does it.
She's like she got a lot of confidence.
She does have a lot of confidence. That was a little bit. That was something that was learned as she matured into her role. One time in the early years, she got very upset, and she's not a woman to cry a lot, but she called me and she was in tears, very, very upset, and she said to me, Mom, she said, we've got a really big problem. And I said, well, what's wrong? And she said, well, we had a mentally retarded person who was in the hospital, and she came back from the hospital, and she was too ill to go upstairs, so Kathy put her in an empty bed we had on the first floor. and the state inspectors came in and were going to close us down. It was a glitch in Ohio law. And she was crying and really, really upset. She says, they're going to close us down. I said, Kathy, you get a hold of yourself. They're not closing us down. She says, what am I going to do? I said, it's simple. You're going to call the governor. You call the governor, explain the problem, and tell him you will be down there in the morning with 15 mentally retarded, the TV cameras, the sleeping bags, and you're going to sleep on the courthouse lawn until they solve the problem. Well, within 2 hours they were called off, the dogs were called off, and she told me that everything was okay. I said, everything is not okay. Now what you have to do is you've got to change the legislature. You've got to change that. So that's what she did. She passed whatever it was that she needed to do and got that little glitch in Ohio law straightened out. And so it was...
It's pretty amazing. What makes her tick? What drives her?
She's very ambitious. What drives her is let's see. What drives her is always wanting the next challenge. The next challenge. It doesn't have anything to do with money. What it has is to see if she can pit her brain and she can do this. And whatever it is. And when she makes a decision that she thinks she wants to do something, then she does a lot of research. She does a lot of research and gets all the facts before she makes a decision. And I think that is so key with many people in today's society, that they don't do their homework when they're going forward in some kind of a plan. And it's very important to, you can't spend more money than you take in. She watches every penny, every cent. And if we don't have it, we don't spend it. And we save for 3 years to buy a driveway. And we've always been short of money from day one, and that hasn't changed. And so I think people need to pay closer attention to their finances, from what I can see in other businesses.
And their personal lives too. So some of the people that might be watching this are Bowling Green students who are just sort of starting out.
Right.
What do you think that they could learn by looking at the way Kathy has conducted her life and her business and continues to? What could they learn?
I think young people can learn a lot by watching Kathy. The one thing that you have to do is you have to have a clean life. You have to stay away from drugs and alcohol or anything that is going to get you off track from whatever goal it is that you want. And you can be, Kathy decided when she was 14 that she was going to be a success. You can be a success or you can be a failure. The choice is completely yours. And if you decide you do not want to waste your life, then you need to pay attention and you need to do what's right. And everybody knows right from wrong. And the commandments are a really good business proposition. Because if you believe that and you treat people correctly, you will be rewarded. People will help you. You don't ever get to the top in any field, in my opinion. You don't ever get there alone. People along the way have encouraged you, they've helped you, they have helped you when you needed advice. However, to get to the bottom, you can do that all by yourself. By your choices, you can go down in the gutter alone. Or with a bunch of other losers.
You're pretty proud of her.
I'm very proud of her. I'm proud of all of my daughters. But I'm very proud of her because she has taken the chances, and it has worked out very well. I mean, there's a lot of people that we help, and 900 people that we give jobs to, and we help a lot of people. And that's what I feel we need to do to make this world a better place than when we came. And our legacy will be that we did make it a better place. And when she was young, she wanted to make Green Springs, Ohio, the elderly capital of Ohio. And she's done very well towards that goal. And I was taken aback when she told me that, because I thought, wow, that's a pretty lofty goal. But she's always had high goals.
Well, from your perspective, what do you think she got out of Bowling Green?
Bowling Green was a wonderful college. Her choice to go there. She got a very good education, and she had it was the first year that they offered the nursing home administration and the degree in gerontology, and that was such a blessing because she got a more rounded, I think, a more well-rounded education with the way they had that program. And it was just a wonderful college, and she got her start and her basis for the rest of her life there in her education, and it has served her well.